Yes, so second.
A strange man. If you know say the dad coming that brother. From the sister,
New to my mom.
and when they come to the place and shoot about doing it. And then
Whose mic is that?
we have two sticks of up there. Yeah, we have two glass sticks of up. So we have
All right, get that. All right, so sorry about that. Where were we? Yeah, so how was your week? Anyone else?
Chris, we're not hearing you.
They're not hearing me?
I hear you. I don't know.
I'm not hearing Chris.
You need to log out and log back, but you can't hear me. Let me text you.
One first one I got did move on. I don't know what the next year.
All right, so go ahead, Stanley.
No, I'm just saying I can hear you.
Okay. Let me just message it. Yes, so my week was pretty busy. Started with a headache, as you would have known last week. We didn't have the program. I had a headache from Friday all day, then through Saturday, then Sunday morning it eased, and I'm good now. So persons may have sent me messages and stuff, and I thank you for that, for the well wishes and the prayers. And I'm here. So I've been working away from home for this week. So you notice I was absent on Discord because I was away from home, and when I get home it's late and it's just about time to get some other stuff done and go to bed. And then
News on Monday, Raquel Porto, TVG News.
I'm helping out at Abner Chapel with their media department. So they're having Caribbean Week tomorrow, Caribbean Day tomorrow. So of course that comes with a number of stuff to do. They've contacted me and asked me, well, to help to kind of structure their department because someone left the position. So I just stepped in and said, okay, I'll help you to structure and organize and build a team. And so I was there doing that. So this week I was just doing some graphic stuff for them. So that's been my week overall. And I've been editing something for Victoria. All right, so who else? Chris, how was your week? JP, welcome. Fatima, Sabrina, Ina Wise, Rachel, Victoria, Yash, Chris, Mom, welcome on.
Shalom, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My week's been pretty good. Nothing too crazy. Like yourself, I've been busy for the last 2 weeks. The Most High has blessed me. Soon, hopefully the next week or two. The townhome I've been staying in or renting is pretty much my parents, and needless to say, I will be officially owning this townhome. Or be in the process of buying my first house, which would be their house, in the next week or two, Elohim willing. So I'm been very excited about that. Thank you. All praises be to Yah. So
Amen.
we've been busy. So pretty much been painting the whole house left and right and getting it together, fixing things in the house. And so we've got a really good appraisal, and actually just got the closing disclosure back this week. So we already have the date set. So just it had to be mindful of, spending habits and things. And so I'm excited. My parents are very excited for me. So this will be pretty good. So y'all's been very good to me this week.
That's a whole different beast. It's gonna change everything.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. My mom knows all about this stuff. So like I'm constantly asking her questions like, what is this? What is that? And she's been a blessing, both to her and my dad, but she's been definitely a blessing because she's the business person in the family. So she's been walking me every step of the way.
Good, great, congrats. Right,
Thank
family?
you, thank you.
Super dope.
Yeah, you're ahead of me. I'll soon catch up with you. At least on this side of the ocean.
Gotcha.
Already gone through that process on the other side of the ocean. Side. Well, anyone else? Fatima. Rachel.
Hi, I've been doing fairly well. I had a really good day at work today.
That's good.
My company was almost out of $600,000 and I was able to recoup all the money. So after I reported that to my director, she sent everybody home. She was like, all right, we had a very good day, everybody going home for the rest of the weekend. So I've been in a great mood and the rest of my week has been pretty good too. So
that's great. It is good when you can actually be such an asset to the place you work, because guess what? When time comes for them to downsize, you're going to be the last person on their mind to downsize or to lay off. So I've always think it's once you're working somewhere, give it your best and do your job as if it was your last. I give it your 100. So congrats to you, and I hope that you one day own a business like that. I don't know what kind of business it is, or own the business you desire to own, and do that very thing for yourself. So you can report that you've made $600,000.
absolutely, absolutely. Congratulations to you. I wish you the best in your endeavors, especially for your
Thank you, thank you.
6, 1 to 9.
All right, Vicky, what's up? Oh, Victor.
I'll go.
I'm here. I'm sorry, my finger touched the mute button. I'm good. To God be the glory. I just want the winter to be over.
Oh.
As you know, Chris, I suffer with seasonal affective disorder. I just want the winter to be over. Like I can't take much more of it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Flowers blooming, so it's over too.
Flowers are blooming, and Sean has been counting lilies and blossoms and stuff.
Yeah, it rained almost 3 days straight here with no sun.
Oh, wow.
That's not good for people like me.
Yeah, that's not good. Not good. That's not good. Well, we're glad to hear from you, and you're here. And I see Rosa joining. Yesterday, the day before yesterday was really warm and nice. Yesterday it started warm. And for some reason, we were inside of a house doing some work. When I came back out, it was cold. And I'm saying, wait, what just happened? It just changed. So I'm trying to figure out whether the winter is going or staying.
I don't know, because this weekend is supposed to be very cold.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm dying to see it, Pastor. I like the sun. So I'm not an inside person. So inside don't work for me at all. So Aina, how's your blanket?
Huh? Oh, do you want to see it?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, so welcome Tamara. Welcome Rosemary.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. How was your week?
My week was good. I'm still at work. I work at a school. School is about to end, so
Oh, you still have,
um,
okay.
yeah, it was a good week though.
Okay,
Thank
where
you
is
for
that?
asking.
Where is that in terms of state?
Oh, I'm in Hawaii, Maui.
Hawaii, oh. Oh, that's right,
Yeah.
because I'm seeing darkness outside and I'm seeing sunlight behind you. Well, it's great. Toda, yeah. So Anna is back with the blanket.
Yeah. It's really big. I'm halfway done now.
Oh, she added
Wow.
more colors.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you made that. That's what's
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to keep going because I don't want to do another one yet. So I'm like going slow.
Oh. That looks good.
Looks very warm.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to teach Evan and Eli how to do that, or learn to teach them because they like warm and fuzzy stuff, so they need to learn to make their own warm and fuzzy stuff.
I didn't even make it to use it. I just made it to kill time because I live in Florida, so I don't need this.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
You don't understand anything that we said before now. In terms of, I get it.
So you're just showing off her talent.
Just can't relate to that, right? Winter stuff. Okay.
If you want to learn how to do it, watch a video on YouTube. Like I learned in 5 minutes. It's easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, YouTube University.
Yeah. Helps me a lot too.
You see Rose is showing off with our 82 degrees.
Rose
Yeah.
has what?
The disrespect.
82 degrees.
No, that's not even. That's not right.
82 degrees.
82. That sounds like we're back in the Caribbean.
Mm.
That's good though. Congrats, Rosie. All right, so tonight again is a recap. Chev, how are you? Looking sleepy.
Yeah, I'm still coming into form. But my week has been really good actually. For the past few months, I feel like I've been kind of isolated, being here in Tanzania, because I've shared with you like my struggles with being around people, and so in a lot of ways I've been isolated. And a big prayer of mine, I was getting ready to kind of like leave because I was like, all right, yeah, like it's been almost a year, and at this point, like I feel like it's like like I've enjoyed my time here. It's been good. I've learned so much. It's been so many experiences, but like a recurring thing is that like I kept falling into like this space of just like I guess like depression or just not a good mental state because it's difficult sometimes to connect with people or feel like I have a genuine connection with people as far as like locals because there's a language barrier and also that perception that, oh, you're from America or you're from not here, so you have money, and so then it's like people are always trying to make money off of you. So it's hard to make money on that end. And then when it comes to other diasporans, like people from the West, it can be difficult to connect there as well because it's like, for me, it's like I almost began to feel overwhelmed because a lot of people that come here that I've met are like within like the Hebrew perspective. But for me, at first it was like cool, but then like I think I don't know. For me, it became like overwhelming at a point because it's almost like I also couldn't connect there because I didn't feel like people were being human anymore. It's like every single conversation was about like awakening and Israel and this and that. And I was like, bro, I like art too, like I like film, I like all these other stuff. Like, can we talk about, like different things as well, And so I kind of got to this point where it's like I got overwhelmed with talking about being Hebrew. I just wanted to exist in it. I just wanted to live. I was like, bro, when David was alive, Hebrew, I don't think Hebrews is waking up every day like, yo, did you know that we're the people? Like it's like you just lived in it. It was in your essence. It was a part of your existence. Like you didn't have to prove it to yourself or to others. And I'm understanding of the fact that, you know, we are in that transitional process of like coming back into this perspective. So I've literally been the person that I'm now like overwhelmed by. And so I got it, but it kind of forced me away from people who believe what I believe as well, because I felt like I felt so pressured just to be almost like this religious version of myself, like, oh, like how you would just show up at church like every weekend, like with your suit on. I felt like I had to show up as Hebrew every single day, and I was like, bro, like it's exhausting, and I'm upset, I'm depressed because, like, again, I'm in a place where I don't feel like I'm being honest with myself. My perception of Yah is becoming very skewed. I'm becoming like angry and bitter inside because I'm not doing things I'm passionate about. I'm not doing anything that I love, and I'm not having genuine connections with people. So on both fronts, both like local and diasporan, I just felt like so disconnected. And so that put me in this place of isolation, which of course ended up leaving me in a bad place anyways. And so it's been like a process, and then a prayer of mine, like for a while, has just been like, yeah, like I just really need like genuine interactions. I need genuine friendships. I need opportunities to use my skills and my talents and to like do things that I actually love. I need to be reminded of like how to be human without compromising like on like my relationship, but still exploring like the creativity that I've been given, and like just the identity and the personality that I've been given, you know. And so I'm still like figuring that out. But in the last week, I ended up finding this art space here, and it just happened in like the weirdest way. But I ended up finding this art space, and like I just started meeting like a bunch of artists, and I've just been finding so many opportunities, or Yah's been providing so many opportunities to actually like do things that I love and meet people that that are really passionate. And not everybody is like in the faith or anything, but like I still get to learn from these people, and I still get to share with these people, you know. And it's just a very interesting dynamic. So wherein I don't feel like I have to compromise so much. I mean, like every day there's still a battle in a sense, but I feel like for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm actually connecting with people, and I'm actually using my talents, and it's feeling really good. It's almost a little bit scary, actually. It's like, oh man, like, because in my mind, I'm like, am I falling into the world? But like, that's just overthinking, you know. But in reality, I think, yeah, it's just answering my prayer and allowing me room to really use my gifts and use my talents, and also just be representative of him, you know, in spaces where like he wants to be shown, in spaces that he wants to reach, you know. And I think that that place of isolation was necessary, because there's so much in me that I feel was built and continues to be built. But I also see it now as like, okay, you needed that place of isolation so that when you're put in this place of like being social or whatever, now you're there with even less compromise, and you can exist more completely and more holistically as the person that you are, without getting drawn into the world or anything, but actually being the light that like he wants me to be. So I'm still like working that in my head, but I'm really, really grateful for this past week. Like it's just been amazing, like being able to like connect with people for the first time in such a long time.
That's wonderful to hear that you're back to creating. And yeah, sometimes it does feel that way, because people think religion is something you do. People think Torah is something you do. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of do's in it. However, your life is what you do. Torah guides those decisions daily. I don't know if I'm making sense. So if you're an artist, you go out and create. If you're a singer, you go sing. If you're a sports person, you go play what you play. However, in all you're doing and the things that you love to do, your daily decisions now will present you with opportunities to decide whether, okay, do I, if okay, for instance, it was Fatima, if the one person is paying the company money and they owed 1,000, but they thought they owed 4,000 and they're giving you 4,000 or they're transferring 4,000, do you keep the 3,000 or do you say to them, no, it was only 1,000? You have that, I mean, in bigger companies, you would have to send it back anyway. You don't have that choice, but in your small circle, that's when Torah comes in. You make the decision whether to be honest or not based on your understanding of Torah. And so it's not that Torah is saying, when you get up this morning, if you're going to eat breakfast, you pray and you don't eat until Yah tells you what to eat. Yah doesn't want to do that. Yah wants us to enjoy our lives. And when the opportunity presents itself, which it always does, we choose to walk in Torah. In other words, do what you love. He wants to bless you and give you the desires of your heart, not the desires of his heart, but the desires of your heart. It means that the passion that he's created you with, explore it. Just within the confines of do not steal it from anyone, do not shortchange anyone, do not covet. And we learned covetousness the other day as we were looking at a study last week, Sabbath. And covetousness was not just actually you saying, but it's actually taking something from someone by ill gain. So if you get it, if whatever you have is ill-gotten, it's covetousness. So the bottom line is that Torah is there to guide us to righteousness, to a set apart life, not to tell us how to make our every step. And a lot of the times it becomes that, because sometimes all of us go through that point, that Shevism, where we're not sure where to go, where to turn, what to do. But in all that, we come back to the position, if we understand the Torah that way, is that it guides us. It guides our decisions. So the decision we make, so we're going to go, I said to someone, you may want to go downtown or you may want to go across town to the mall. Yahuwah is not necessarily interested in making that decision for you. If downtown is a bad place, he may say to you, do not go, or frustrate your plans to go downtown. However, if downtown in your mind represents evil and across town represents good, you have that decision to make now. However, if downtown and across town is just a difference of stores, where you're going to get whatever shoe or clothing you buy, it's up to you. Yahuwah will bless you on any decision you make. None of those involve contravention of the principle of Torah. I see a hand, Shev, and I'm coming to you, Chris. So, yeah, I'm coming to Chris, then Shev. So, understanding Torah as a guide to how to walk. We're going to touch some of that tonight as we touch the relationship between the Father, the Son, and the Ruach, or the Spirit, and the function that each plays. Stanley, I'm not hearing you though. Okay, if you're talking to us, okay, it's not okay.
No, he's not talking to us.
Right, so the function of Torah in our lives is to guide us, to keep us on the path to righteousness, because righteousness is not natural to us anymore. When Adam was created, which we will touch, righteousness or being on the right path, because we touched that last week, right? 2 weeks ago. Righteousness means being on the right path. It's simply that. So that was natural to Adam before sin. Since sin, our natural tendency is to destroy ourselves. So Yahuwah says, I'm going to give you a document that will help you to walk on this path. And so Torah is not a burden, unless, of course, your yearning is to go party and drink until you drop. Yes, if that's your yearning and you've not mentally accepted that you need to give that up, then Torah is going to be a burden every day. But outside of those stuff, and this is not to say that we don't have the tendency and the feeling to go do stuff that we ought not to do. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you continuously war against the principles of Torah, reject them, then it will become a burden to you. It will become a schoolmaster to you. But if you accept that, wow, I have a smoking problem, and guess what? I accept that it is wrong and I want to change. Torah, even though you fall into it and you keep trying to kick the habit, Torah is not a burden, because every time you feel you need strength to kick it, you're going to go back to Torah. So Torah becomes a refuge. Same document that condemns your action, the same document that becomes a refuge as to how you walk away from. Chris.
I wanted to say to Chev is not crazy, but it's cool that you mentioned that, bro, because that's what I've been feeling too. Is that sense of, because like I started following a lot of different fellow brothers that, speak, the truth and so forth, that I find interesting. But I also found myself, in addition to that, and amongst other things, and wanting to have that need to share the truth so much to people, is that need to feel like you have to be this quote unquote preachy Hebrew all the time, whether in your everyday life or on social media. So every post that you post, you got to find some way to like share some bit of truth to it. And I find that too is that's not, I guess, who I am per se, as far as who of course we all are instructed to share the truth at some point, but that's their kind of quote, their path and not necessarily mine, or may not be yours. And then in addition to being a creative as well, I just started back working on music. Of course, I play at this church now. And even then, sometimes I question that because, I got out of the church for a specific reason. And it just feels like the way it happened, I feel like y'all just put me back in there to use my gifts, because I got out of the church scene just because out of just like the political side of it. And I was like, I don't have no desire to be no head musician at no church or whatever. But ironically enough, I asked the Most High for an extra increase in finances. And I told him, I said, look, I just need an extra 200 a week. That's all I need just to start doing certain things. And needless to say, like within that next week or so, one of my neighbors was a member at this church, and she came and knocked on my door. She was like, we need a musician and stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, you got me out of this. Why did you put me back in? And so, and knowing, because I know, churches, of course, they still celebrate certain things that, of course, I no longer celebrate, but and I still seek him in that manner. But it was just weird how it works out. But even in that manner, it's like you always, you're struggling trying to be, sharing the truth all the time. And sometimes there are instances where, like Chris said, I present you to be human, to enjoy life. And I'm now finding that out, is that I don't have to be this preachy person all the time trying to find opportunities to share the truth. And, y'all will present those opportunities, but in the meantime, enjoy, the creative process of, who he actually created you to be.
Yeah. Wow. And that's honestly something that a similar revelation that I started finding like a while ago too. And I'm still trying to settle into it, because of course there's like the pressure of like, when I get on social media and people are like, I see the same thing. It's like, oh man, is that what I'm supposed to be doing? Is that what sharing the truth? Some instances, sure, like, but I don't know. For me, what I realized was that like, for one, I realized that I was sharing, for me, I felt like I was sharing truth, but I felt like, I don't feel like this is actually helping, at least in the way that I was doing it, because I was like, I had to think like, man, like if I were to see this and I didn't know anything, like how would this affect me? Like the way in which this is being presented. And for me, I know that like I what resonates in my heart oftentimes is like genuine, just human connection, right? Like I will listen to somebody tell me their whole life story if I feel like connected with this person, right?
Right.
And for me, I just felt like I feel like I was speaking and I was being heard, but I wasn't being understood. And so for me, like it kind of changed. I was like, okay, how can I speak in a way that I'm understood and not just heard, right? And that's what kind of started to open my mind to like, okay, like maybe it's okay to just be myself and let Yah provide like the opportunities. Because on top of that, because I felt like for me, like I was becoming this religious version of myself. Like I let this for a
Exactly.
while, I just like
Yeah.
like over my entire life, like every word, every breath was about like, this.
Yeah.
I started to feel like what it actually did, what it is isolated me from people. Like I realized people like I couldn't really connect with my friends anymore. I couldn't really talk because I wasn't connected with myself anymore.
Right.
I wasn't being honest with myself as far as like, yo, are you happy? Like are you like enjoying your life, and that started to like change my perspective on what it means to be a light, right? Because again, Israel, ancient Israel, like they don't from what I understand, it's like they didn't walk around like proving to the world who they were. Like Jonah went on a whole shit, bro, and it wasn't until it was a whole storm and there was like, yo, like who is your God, bro? Like because we finna die in here. And he was like, yo, well, I'm actually Hebrew. And that whole situation, they ended up praising Yah, and he like
Yeah.
Yah created that scenario, and that's maybe like an extreme situation, but the point being that like I realized that for me being Hebrew, it's like I've always been Hebrew. I didn't just become Hebrew when I came into this perspective. It's always been who I am. I just came into the knowledge of who I am, right?
Right.
And so
Exactly.
somehow I forgot that I started to be who I thought I was supposed to be, rather than believing like, bro, like this has been who I've been my entire life. My whole life, Yah has been using me to like impact and help people. And he's also been using people to help me, right? And so it's like now it's almost like I'm realizing I don't have to try to be Hebrew. I
Right.
am,
Right.
and that's not to say I don't try to like stand by Torah. I don't try to be disciplined. Like I put effort to these things in my personal life, in my personal walk. But when it comes to relating to other people, it's like, yo, I'm already who I am. So just because I am who I am, just me living and being and doing things I love, for one, that's gonna make me happier. But then two, Yah is already going to use that
Right.
and use me to like reach other people. And so I'm still working through it, because I don't know. I feel like I'm low key like
Trying to be
I
this
don't
like
say
super theologian or something. At least
yeah.
that's what I be like, because I share a lot of when I first started doing it, coming to the truth, like I'll share, and I still do, and I've cutting back so much because
Mm.
now like my parents, they not into it yet, and I pray the Most High does reveal that to them. Um, I do have an idea to kind of invite them to Passover at some point, but I have to find a way to do it creatively. Um, because I don't celebrate stuff, so I'm like I want to at least do it, but I don't want to do it in a way that feels like I'm coming off, I won't say boastful, but like
Yeah.
in a way that's inviting. But like on the social media tip, like so like on Instagram, I do all like my business stuff, but then like I slow down on that because I'm like, am I supposed to be posting true stuff up here now? But I'm like, that's not what that page is for. And then on my personal Facebook, like I'm sharing so much truth, but nobody's really necessarily engaging with it because it's
Mm.
not like in a manner that they can understand it. And it's like a random post, like, what is this? And then, most people will bypass it. And like my parents are like, well, nobody knows what you're talking about, and what you're doing, you're isolated. And I bypass it. I'm like, I'm not isolating myself, but they need to know this. And da 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 da. And then I'm like, wait a minute, nobody's really, engaging. And it's like you isolate yourself from people because it's like, well, they not in the truth, so then I can't really necessarily like, be around them. But then it's like that's not I believe that's not what Yah wants. Like there are opportunities, like even at work, where like somebody will ask me a question, or even my coworker will ask me a question, and I know it's nobody but the Most High that presented that there, and so I can answer that, and then I'll leave it at that, and then that person will start thinking, and they'll can research for themselves. But in addition, like I learned, I'm not that guy to be that super theologian on social media and always got to be, you know, preachy on these platforms. And it's okay to it's okay to share certain things, and when I do share, I try to like word things in a way where people can understand it, like this is where this comes from, this is that. But it doesn't have to be an every word I speak has to be a Hebrew word, every sentence and every post I post has to be something to that caliber. And it's okay to like just present yourself as relatable to people. I think that's another thing too, is that when we, especially at least for me, I was in a space where I was just like always trying to post stuff and trying to be that person to wake people up, like they teaching, Christianity, you have to go make disciples of people and stuff. And I found myself in that realm of trying to do that, and it's not necessarily who I am, as a person. Like I can talk, like you, I love hearing people tell me their story, and I engage that way. And then, if there's opportunity there, then I can share. But if not, then I'll leave it alone.
Right.
You know what, Chris?
And
Go ahead, Chef.
oh no, I was gonna say like that last one that you made, it really resonated with me, because like I feel like that's an example of like existing in the fruit of Torah, right? Like it's like by experiencing you, the way I see it is that my ideal is that by experiencing me, you should experience the love of Yah.
Right.
Whether or not the opportunity provides that, we get to go in this in-depth conversation or whatever, like even if at just face value, like you just experience a friend who's willing to listen to you, somebody like being kind to you, somebody showing up for you, somebody like being there for you, like by experiencing me, you should experience the love of Yah through me, so that whether or not we get to actually talk about Yah, even if we just leave that day, I believe that Yah is like satisfied with that as well. Like, because that's what Torah is supposed to produce. So that's how we become a light to the world. It's like we're giving the fruits of Torah, we're giving love, we're showing, we're just showing him, showing discipline, showing all these things to people. And so like that's kind of been where I've been at more now. And it's funny because in doing so, like I see Yah provide opportunities, just like you mentioned, like even at this art space that I've been working at, it's been like 2 events they've had now that's been on like Shabbats, and I haven't been able to go, right? And like the people there, like we've been connecting heavy, so they're like, bro, like why you not coming? Da, 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 da. I'd be like, yo, it's my Shabbat, bro, it's my day of rest. And like they don't even know, like a lot of them don't even know what that means, but they'd be like a Shabbat. Like I'd be like, yeah, it's like one day where like I just rest, and like, oh yeah, I be needing that too, bro. And I'd be like, yeah, bro, it's live, like we all be need, to like chill out sometimes. And then today, this one guy, like I told him he was gonna have an event tomorrow, and he was inviting me, and I was like, oh, like I can't come, like it's Shabbat for me. And he was like, yo, like what is that? And I started kind of like sharing with him like my experience with it. He was telling me like he has actually one of his closest friends does that, but he's never understood it. He's like every Saturday this guy like it's like he goes off grid, like he's never at anything that we're doing. Like I don't understand it, And he was like, I have so many questions because my friend has been doing this forever. I don't get it. So it's like the opportunity to share an environment where there's not pressure. Like I'm not trying to make you do Shabbat. It's like you're just asking me about like my personal experience because you're genuinely interested in that. Like I think Yah can I can just share what I share, and Yah can do what he will with those seeds. But it's not me carrying that weight on my back. Like who you know about your Lord and Savior? Like it's just
but
like
then you feel good too though.
Huh?
You feel real good about it though. You feel real good about sharing that because it's that's that opportunity for you to share it. But then it also shows too that people really are starting to realize certain things, or they have the questions, they just don't have nobody to answer them.
Okay, looks like Chef is frozen.
He probably did. Yeah,
But
it's cool.
It's a balance.
Chris, you have I don't know if it's me, but you have like an echo in your system, like you're not really crisp.
When I'm speaking,
Yeah, I don't know if you're speaking into the closest mic.
see what mic is connected to it. Oh, I see.
And I was wondering, like, is it me or?
All right, that sounds
Hey.
better.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All this time. Look, when the audio is not crisp, say something.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm like, is it me? I'm like, it gotta be me. Maybe it's me.
Because I'm using quality mic. So if that's not coming through, it means that I'm not using that mic. What happened is that there's a webcam connected on the other side because these screens are for the program. The next set of screens was for the normal stuff. So the webcam is on those screens, so it's like across the room. But it's the same machine, but they're different screens and different stations. So yeah, so that's what you were hearing. It was roomy. So if you're hearing roomy sound, tell me, because I have a mic right here, literally right here. So you shouldn't be hearing any echo. All right, so thanks, Stanley. Yeah, so two things, Chris. It's a balance. It's of note that Yahuwah never sent the Hebrews to have crusades or campaigns. No. He asked them to live. And when they have feast days, which were celebrations, not days of mourning. In fact, I was in Nehemiah today, and he was saying to them, don't mourn. This is a day of feast. It's not a day of mourning today. It's a day of feast. And we were discussing that some time ago, Chef, about fasting on Sabbath, which Victoria brought to my attention. Not fasting on Sabbath. Because Yahuwah's feast days meant for celebration. And as you celebrate as a nation, then people will see. People will take note that you're not at their function on, and I'm coming to you, Pastor Kim, or KM. Oh, the KM is just coming to me now. Okay, yeah. People will take note that you're not at the function. However, there are times when Yahuwah sends a messenger, an angel then, because that's what the word angel means. A messenger with a specific message. Jonah, you mentioned earlier, walking through Nineveh. Nineveh was the capital of Assyria. The people who were responsible for the vanquishing of Jerusalem. No doubt Jonah would have had family who died from that. Whole different situation. So living out Torah it's a daily experience. It's you choosing to give the person back the phone that you just found, because Torah says finders are not keepers. So we don't play that. If you find the people's phone, you give it back to them. Right? So they'll say, wow, that's different. That's not normal. You get those opportunities. The next thing, if you left a church because of difference of belief system, it doesn't mean that you've left the people. They are still your friends. They are still your friends. You don't become enemies because you say, look, I'm embracing Shabbat and you don't, or I'm embracing my Hebrew heritage and you don't, even though you embrace Shabbat. It doesn't mean that you're enemies. And it doesn't mean that if you fellowship with them, you're falling back to that. What I see all this as, and I had the same problem in church. I preached one day in church. I said, look, religion has had all of us seeing our own brothers as enemies because they're in a different denomination or a different religion than us.
And that's exactly what I've been feeling like since I'm back. And of course, I'm playing in certain songs, especially during like the holiday seasons and stuff. I'm like, am I falling back into something I'm not supposed to be in? And I have to learn the songs because, of course we have to sing them. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? and it's and I feel like I'm falling back to something I'm not supposed to be in.
And that's the next thing. We have to kind of look at stuff objectively. I'm coming to you, Pastor. Someone singing Christmas carol doesn't mean you are worshiping Saturnalia. Because the carols were actually created at a different time than the actual season, actually. However, you have to know, like Shaul says, not because they offer up a certain meat for sacrifice. They offer up chicken for sacrifice, so you're going to stop eating chicken. Right?
That analogy is what I use. What? Like when people come with the most craziest reasons not to do something, like wait.
Right.
Because you could do you could corrupt anything.
Exactly. Even the Bible, which, wow, I think it has been the most.
People corrupt the Sabbath all the time.
Huh?
I said people corrupt the Sabbath all the time. Don't mean I'm gonna stop keeping the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I would even add that, like, like.
Wait. Before everybody jump in, let me take Pastor's hand because everybody's. Pastor KM, I think it's Keith. Pastor.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on, I mean, it was an earlier point. I think you had moved on from it, but I just wanted to say that many times we create a separation between our Christian lives and our normal lives. It's like when you go to church, you put on a face of Christianity, and then when you go to work, you're a completely different person. But we should have a level of consistency where, just like Cher was saying, that people should just see God in you as they interact with you. You don't have to open up scripture or anything like that, but just by being in your presence, they can feel the presence of God. And I think that sometimes we have a certain level of hypocrisy where during the week we are living worldly lives and we are completely separate from any Christian affiliation. But then on the Sabbath, or any affiliation of God, but on the Sabbath we start, affiliating with things of God. So we shouldn't create that separation. That's all I wanted to say.
I agree with you totally. Before I get to you, Chef, that comes out of an effort to create a system when Rome was creating the system, so that it's no longer a way of life. It becomes a political system. And then you have to now be this person here and be that person, so that every denomination has their own sets of rules, and denominations and groups need rules. The problem is this: when your rule is your rule and it does not necessarily reflect the will or the instructions of Yah, then it becomes a set of people in a space with the same mindset now being adherent to these set of rules. So now you have to create that persona to match these set of rules. Yahuwah says, look, go live your life and walk according to Torah. That's a whole different scenario. As a matter of fact, our entire culture was created by him. And he says, go live, camp, sing, dance, do stuff. And in your daily doings, just remember these principles, because Torah, living by Torah, is more living by the principle. What we've found is that modern times, people live by modes of operation based on institutional mindset. So we strive now to be the person that that institution would have wanted to mold. And it's no longer principles. And so what we find is that it cannot apply because it's a mode, it cannot apply. Principles apply, just like you're doing math, not good at it. It is a formula that applies. If you just take the exact problem on the paper, that will never apply to everything you in your life. But if you look at the formula, which is a principle, then that will apply to different situations. That's a scenario we find ourselves in when we try to apply church doctrines or Hebrew doctrines, quote unquote, because we know that there are doctrines that Judah came up with that was not in the Torah, or addition to the Torah that was not necessarily a part of it, that became a burden to the people. And that happens every time we try to create the wheel again. Because Yahweh created the wheel already. We don't need to do anything but roll it.
Sometimes it turns people off when you're just preaching.
Yeah, and Sean says sometimes it turns people off when you're just preaching. So,
yeah.
Victoria.
So I'm listening to everybody, and I think this is how I feel. When Christ is in us, it's no, with the understanding it's no longer you, it's him through you. You are just the vessel that he's using to perform his marvelous work. You're just the vessel. You're going to go about living your life, but he will use you when you are needed to be used. His light is going to be always guiding, shining through you. He's always going to be, when he is in you, when we have surrendered completely to him and he is in us, Christ in us, the hope of glory. When he is in us, I think, and I speak for myself too, that when we are so busy doing for Christ, when we are so, they have the saying, your business, show me a person who work in their business instead of working on their business, it'll never grow.
Oh.
It'll never grow. If you're constantly working in your business instead of working on your business, it's not going to grow. And it's the same. It's Christ. If we're working, if we're doing, it's expected of me. This is what the Torah says I need to do. This is what God wants me to. If this is what is expected of me, then you're absolutely right, Chris. It will feel like a task, and we will feel like this is what is expected. So this is what I'm supposed to be doing all the time. Chev, I was there. I know exactly how you feel. Christopher White, I know exactly how you guys feel, because I felt like this is what's expected. I'm a Christian. The whole world sees me as a Christian. So therefore, this is what I need to be doing. This is what I need to be saying. This is what I need to be singing. This is what I need to be wearing. This is what I need to be. These are the people I need to associate it. This is the places I need to go. Everything must, at the end of the day, must come down to the word. I felt like there was no balance. I wasn't living. Then there is me, but me is dead and gone. And I think if with Christ living in us, it's not that he's going to zap away our existence where the things we love the things we enjoy doing, the things that brings joy to our heart. Why can't those things that brings joy to our heart be even more joyful when the Lord is associated with it? Doesn't necessarily mean that we have to take away the things that we love. And I get it. I understand. And I think that's where, and I think the devil keeps us working for God instead of us allowing God to work through us. He keeps us busy for God because we think, I'm busy for the Lord. I'm busy for the Lord. And after a while, you hate being busy for the Lord. You hate it. You resent it because you have nothing left. It takes away you no longer exist. And I think that's what we challenge. That's what we're taught. That's what we're taught. And that's the challenge we face.
I'm going to read a passage of scripture in light of all that we've discussed thus far. And we're going to see something here. It's Psalm 1. I mean, everybody, even people who don't go to church read Psalm, right? Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners. Sounds very condemning right away, like a chain is being put on you. Nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of Yahuwah, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his seasons. In his season, mark that word. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Did any of you get that? What's happening? We're going to start at the back end and work our way back to the front. Whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Does that sound like just Torah now? He's saying whatsoever he does, as long as he do what? Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the. In other words, you can't take counsel from people who don't even recognize God. But nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, nor standeth in the way of the sinners. In other way, you can put yourself in wrong places. Not saying that you can't live, but his delight is in the law. In other words, you embrace the instructions of Yah. And the Bible says, whatever you do, not whatever Yah tells you to do, whatever you do, whatsoever. It didn't say some of the things you do shall prosper. It didn't say, come to me for me to tell you whether or not you should brush your teeth today.
the image of the Christian image that we have.
Dear Lord, should I brush my teeth today?
Yeah.
Am I going to be ridiculed if I sing a nice jazz? Like, if I listen to jazz, am I going to hell? Like,
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that right there. That's one of the ones I've heard. Like, you can't listen. I've heard people that are in the faith and like they get condemned for listening to secular music. It's like, but it's everything has its season and everything has its purpose, but it's what you're listening to that's what's mattering.
You'll
You
find
listen to
more
jazz music,
praise and secular music than gospel music.
right?
You'll tell because they're being honest. Because in secular music, they're being honest.
Right.
But guess what? Music, again, we've been cultured to see some music as God's music. But we're not discussing music tonight, and other music as the devil. In Jamaica, and Jamaica kind of different when it comes to church. Look, when there was some church that would play drums, in the Adventist church, you will never see a drum.
Never.
Crazy?
It didn't come a thing until I was like, I remember I was like, well, it was a big thing. It was a massive thing.
And anything with drums, and the Adventists didn't create this. No, they started from the 17th century, when classical music was basically canonized, and so that the organ and the piano become the music instrument of choice because that was what Europe used. and anything with drums was now classified as devil. So the musicology school of thoughts, and I read a document, 25 legal pages from Manuel Samuel from Bakioki. And basically what it was saying, good music, strings, bad music, drums. That was it.
Same way go. Same way go.
It's even crazy is I saw sorry, let me cut you off. I saw a video of this guy. I can't remember if he was a pastor, and he was talking about. So he pretty much, of course, most people like what's it called, CCM music, and they classify that as holy music. And so they got into, and he tried to like put this unnecessary rule, trying to demonize hip hop as the devil's music, and he tried to break it down to like this whole rhythmic thing. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, that makes no sense at all, because it's, especially when you think, you have Christian hip hop and things like that. But the way he was trying to break it down was the same thing. Like they put unnecessary rules where y'all didn't put the rules there. And certain music can be used. Of course, certain music, no. But the instrumentation in itself is not bad.
Saying that to say this.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Chev.
I was gonna say, JP said that it's the words and the music that makes a difference. What is being said to our hearts through our ears.
Right.
So to piggyback on what Shavs just said, I remember I had to sing in Atlanta, and they asked me to send the soundtracks that I'm going to be singing from to them a week in advance, so the music department could listen to it. And I said, Chris, anybody that knows me knows my favorite song. It is Well With My Soul. That's my, either I open or I close with that song. And all the songs I sent, Great Is Thy Faithfulness, It Is Well With My Soul, I forgot the next one. And they told me I couldn't sing them because they had drums and bass line in them. They told me I could not sing those. I could not use those soundtracks. And I asked them why. And they said the drums and the bass line, it stirs the lower passions. And I'm saying to the thought in my head was, so you can't come to church and hear music and control yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, then your congregation have bigger problems.
Yeah.
Them have bigger problems.
No, look here.
Rhythm
Victoria.
is bad.
Victoria.
I can't put a good bass line in here.
Remember the first time we met?
Yes.
We were singing at the same place.
Yes.
Look here. From the soundtrack started, I could tell I wasn't, either the song was wrong or the place was wrong.
I know.
The look on the people's face when the soundtrack started.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me that either I am in the wrong place or the song is in the wrong place.
I'm telling you.
That was matching up. So, because it was too loud.
Oh, yes, Lord.
But we cannot let cultures define for us, because all these things came down to us based on one culture and those who propagated what we understand as religion on us or across our social base. And then that now becomes a determinant for us as to what's good and what's bad. Because I remember the first time I sang in church, I started Amazing Grace, but Sanchez, of course, coming from dancehall, I knew Sanchez, so he sang Amazing Grace. So guess what? The song I know to sing, I'm going to sing Amazing Grace. The elder says, "What are you doing?" I said, "What?" He said, we don't sing nothing here." I said, "What?" And then there was this communion about 4 years ago here, this time in this decade. Not that time, this decade. And it was a communion, and Wintley Phipps does this wonderful version of Amazing Grace. And he went through the slave scale, black keys, white keys.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the slave scale with all the Negro spirituals are played on the black, and all your other spirituals are played on the white keys. Don't know. Yeah. So he was going through that, and he was going through the composition, because he studied music. And I'm playing that song in a communion, before the communion. And it's he started with this baritone. And someone said, what are you playing? Because he was talking about blacks. So not even blacks are accepted. Have you ever noticed that we don't discuss black issues in churches until it became a thing the other day in a whole lot of churches? We don't even pray about it at the altar. So we're cultured so that your black experience is not even accepted at a communion.
That's crazy. I even had I used to play for this Kojic church, and a lot of I gave this girl the weirdest, like, not ugly, but this look of confusion. Like, I know you didn't just say that. So we was going through songs choices, and I forgot the name of the song. And just out of the blue, one of the girls was like, "We can't sing that song because that's a Baptist song." And I looked at them, I said, "What difference does that make? Don't we serve the same God?" And like, I was so confused, and it messed me up that whole night. I was like, I just couldn't fathom, like, what difference did it make? The song worshiped the same God, but because it was a different denomination, you can't sing it. And I was like,
wow,
this can't be right.
If
That's
the
when
lyrics,
I said, oh, it's
if
weird.
the lyrics is off, then that's when you reject it.
Right.
That's when you reject it, when the lyrics is off. Because I'm not going to sing any all the saints adore the you know that song? God in three persons. Oh, most of your young people wouldn't know it. But you talk about the sun. And then there was a song I was singing once. It was an a cappella song. Let us break bread together on our knees. And this part is when I fallen on my knees with my face to the rising sun. I didn't even know what I was singing. And then an elderly lady says, "Young man, look here, look at me." She said, "Don't sing that song." And she explained it to me. And I realized that they were singing about falling down to your knees, looking to the rising sun. And I said, okay. So
the physical sun.
It was sun worship. Sun worship.
Wow.
Rising sun, yes.
Wow.
And when I researched in recent times, I realized that guy was swinging between nature worship and worship of God. He was all over the place. So,
but that also lets you know how those type of things infiltrate the faith in a way, and we don't know it, and we blindly, I hate to say blindly, sing certain things that we don't know. And in that reference, I definitely agree. When you start, certain things are,
And if you tell me that, if you reject the song and tell me that, I'm gonna agree with you. But not when you tell me that because it's reggae, it's bad.
Right.
Seriously. If we were to talk the truth, we would all play. Anyone here know Kete drum? It's an African drum.
Yes.
Yeah. We would all be playing drums and chanting. Because if you look at Judges 13, that can't hold on any one of our scales. You couldn't put that on any one of our scales to sing it, but yet still, guess what? Miriam was singing it. So, guess what? We're good. This on Judges 13. I don't remember where it was. Miriam was playing the timbrel and she was dancing, she was singing. But they had just crossed Jordan and they were celebrating. However, I see we're not going to get to touch most of
This was a good little vent and encouragement session.
Yes, yeah. I guess we continue then.
Yeah, I think it's good to check up on. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to check up on like the emotional well-being of this walk sometimes, because sometimes
to do that temperature check. That temperature check is needed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scan. We're scanning, right?
And
Yeah,
just for people,
same way
especially on
in-
the tambourine, not to cut you off, drums, the context would have been tambourine, but in the modern sense, we think of tambourine with the metal cymbals on it. Back then, it just would have been a drum head.
It was a hand drum.
It was
Yeah.
a hand drum.
It was
So
a
it
hand drum.
literally would have been a drum head, and they're hitting it with their hand.
Yeah,
Or
the timbrel. Yeah.
Yeah.
The timbrel was a hand drum.
so when we talk about drums, we think of drums as a standing setup drum. Back
Yeah.
then, of course, they would have had that because they would have had it multiple
They
things in
probably
the
been
hand.
going crazy back then.
Exactly. So there would have been, so the tambourine we think of as ones with the cymbals. Back then, it would have been a hand drum, the skin, the wood, and a stick.
Right.
Yeah, I learned that from then when I was doing the study because, of course, there was this big discussion all the time at my church. Me coming from dancehall, coming into a church now that is very quiet. If there's not a fire preacher over there in the morning, you don't know that church is happening. So me now, I'm here. Okay, then why are you telling me that reggae is bad? Because a lot of us feel, and guess what? At that time, even now, I love classical music. I love spirituals, but there's something about reggae, Luciano, that just takes me to a next level.
Full of praise. I
There's
love
something about. I spent a night with some Rastafarians.
It's full of praise.
No, there was the Maroons I spent the night with, and they were playing drums all night. And you don't get tired. When they're playing the drums, you don't get tired.
Maroons are blessed people. You do history on them people.
Yeah. And then I went to a Rasta church one Sabbath morning, because they keep the Sabbath, some of them. And I can tell you, when they start to play that drum and chant, it's a whole different situation.
It touches your soul.
Yeah, it's a whole different situation. And I'm saying, wow.
Music. That's gospel.
That could never enter
a church.
In the pew of the church.
But that
maybe no, just maybe, and for that to enter, it would not be in the context of Rastafarian. It would have to be in the context of a Brooklyn Tabernacle does a song that they feature the conga or the kete drum.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be in the because that's how slow they played.
Mm-hmm.
And they just chant. I don't even know.
Not even saying words. The melody.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Just chanting. And
I've been around some, I've been around some Ras, and like I don't speak Patois. I don't know what they're saying, but when they get to that part where they're just humming and you just hear that drum and you get that rhythm, and it's like you can feel the praise coming out of your body. Like and you just start humming, and it's
you know what's even crazy?
It's
if
special.
You think about like a quote unquote, in Africa and quote unquote Black people, we have an innate how do I say this? It's embedded in us. Like anything that we do, like to the point we can say something. We'll make a little beat out of something, and it will just go crazy. And every next, everybody's joining in. And we don't be saying nothing. We just having fun, and we just, rhythmically, it's in us. So it makes even more sense for the first instruments and stuff to be presented with drums, because I mean, rhythmically, people, it's there.
And it would be from the resources near us. It's an animal wood.
Right. We'll take a school desk or a table and make a beat out of it. And then next
that used to be, yeah.
Look, the whole cafeteria of somebody just,
Yeah, somebody needs to stop doing that though.
Right.
I remember a lot of desks being destroyed at school because of that.
Exactly. They used to tell us, we used to get started, and it was like, look, y'all don't start that mess, and don't be beating up the cafeteria table. It's like, okay, 5 minutes later, and we just going to start it. And it just
the whole cafeteria rocking.
Right. But it's that joy of it. You get joy for doing things like that. So, but yeah. I found out too, like, in addition to what I was telling you guys earlier about the whole Baptist thing, another thing I noticed too, the reason why a lot of people don't really I guess vibe with certain progressions in gospel music, even though, you know, blues, R&B, they take from gospel, gospel takes from neo soul, R&B, and jazz, is that those chord progressions in any way remind people of certain, you know, maybe lifestyles that they lived, or, you know, things that they did prior to coming into the faith. So like there's a it's a gospel song, I can't remember the gospel song, but the bass is like doom doom doo doo doom doo doo doom doom doo
Oh,
doo
it's
doo
all.
doom. Right. So most people
So like I'll
associate
take
that
you
with
there.
Aretha Franklin.
Isn't that
Right.
BB
They
and CC
associate with
Winans?
that.
I'll take you there.
I think it might be
What
that
that
one
is
also.
was that melody is from I'll Take You There.
Right. And
There
so some
is a
people may
place. Yeah.
and so some people may associate that with the, you know, Aretha Franklin song. And so there's some, you know, I've heard people say, you know, oh, we can't sing that because of the bass line. You know, it may remind people of, you know, of that song, and they might have certain thoughts. That's their vendetta. If you're singing a gospel song and it doesn't have that, you know, the lyrics in there, but if just the bass line is built off the bass line and, you know, chord progression stuff is different, there's no issue there. But if that person has that actual, you know, issue, they have to actually work that out. It
Let me
doesn't
tell
make
you
the
what,
gospel song bad.
let me tell you what I'm not going to do though. For instance, you have a song, let's say, just choose an artist, any modern artist that
Right.
Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing, taking that bass line and then applying it to
Yeah, like no,
Right.
that definitely. I agree
play
with
with
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have people pushing, like I heard someone once have a child sing Eye of the Tiger Sabbath morning.
Wow.
No, Katy Perry, Roar.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, okay, so
Yeah, now that I don't agree with taking.
when you
Yeah,
have
there's certain songs like that.
people
Yeah.
that lead a certain lifestyle, that's the next side, because we have to be balanced here. When you have people that lead a certain lifestyle in the public sphere, we know that our R&B artists, they're still in
Yeah.
They
carrying
play
your
with
soul.
that line.
Yeah,
They tweet that
right.
line back and forth all the
Yeah.
time.
It's not a Rick James or a Brian McKnight. It's these people are giving you the signs every day.
Right.
When I introduce that to my child, because children, when you're in a congregation, children sees utopia. So everything that happens there is correct. Now, when you introduce Roar there, and that child says, you know what, let me go find out without guidance who this person is. This child is going to be introduced to the other stuff that you would prefer them not to hear.
Yep. Now their eyes are open to that whole
Right,
area.
a whole new world. So
Yeah.
in that sense, I would be careful, but I wouldn't just say, because the truth is, R&B promotes some crazy stuff. Even worse than, well, I wouldn't say worse than reggae, no. Worse than dancehall. Worse than reggae, not worse than dancehall. But R&B, in a subtle way, promotes the most promiscuity, promotes everything like that. But guess what? Because it's so soothing, the chord progression is different, Chris.
Right.
But guess what? It calms you, so it gets into your head. But the truth is that we can't determine our faith or walk in Torah based on someone else's culture. When I was doing a training, a friend of mine says to me, he's a pastor now actually. He said, we were there discussing good music, bad music, because of course, in the Adventist church, any teaching forum for preachers or lay preachers going to have a musical discussion, a dress code discussion. No matter which way you put it, those are going to come up. So the discussion was there where there's young preachers debating, and this one guy just says, you know what? I believe you take the best music from any culture and give it to God, and that's what he wants. And that was the end of the discussion. That was it.
Yeah.
The most ardent critic or defendant just couldn't say anything more. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, and that's what people I feel like too. Because some people like when I still do listen to a lot of Christian hip hop because at that time I used to listen to a lot of other secular music and different stuff and had certain artists that I like, and and I still listen to certain R&B and neo soul artists, but I needed an outlet outside of the main hip hop scene because of course that stuff wasn't of Yah, and so coming into Christian hip hop, it was like I get I hate to say the best of both worlds, but I get hip hop that I love with a godly message to it.
Mhm.
And so I was like, and I listened to it, and I started. This was like 20. My mom introduced me to it in like 2009, I believe, and because I used to listen to Lil Wayne like back then, and so she was not happy. And she messed up, and she always said she's like, I messed you up because she put two songs on my. I used to have the little MP3 players, and it was two songs by this gospel rap artist, and I played them two songs on repeat religiously. And it got to a point I just started seeking out more artists in that area, and I was like, there's this big arena of artists that make music for God that I didn't know about, and they do it in the hip hop. And so I was so happy to find that, and then also finding more people that liked it as well. So it was just definitely cool, and it just goes back to like God can use different genres of music in ways that you would never thought He could, just based off the genre alone.
Yeah.
I hear neo soul gospel music. I won't say necessarily I say R&B gospel music, but neo soul gospel music. I even hear some jazz stuff that's directed towards gospel. But I do agree with certain stuff. Now there are certain songs I would say no, don't take it and try to gospelify it. It doesn't work that way. Because I heard I think it's an Anita Wilson, the Jesus Will song, which is a great song. And then I finally found the original of where it came from. And I was like, I wonder how they were able to even just take this and, switch it the way they did. But they did.
So, okay, so our walk in Torah. It should not be a difficult walk. It should not be a stressful walk. When the stress starts to come in, it means that we're becoming religious. And I know religious means, well, the contemporary form of religion or the meaning of religion means to repetitively do something, but really, truly religion does not have an etymology because it's just one of those abstract things. But the one thing we all subscribe to should be the instructions of Yah. It shouldn't be to that person's standard of righteousness or that other person's standard of righteousness or even my own standard of righteousness. It should just be Torah. And as we walk daily, we're not going to always feel like it. But what I do when I don't feel like it, I go listen Kings, Chronicles, because they have some really humorous stories in those books that is not say Shaul. Shaul, no, you have to kind of slow down a little and read and reread and reread and read again. But when you're listening to Elijah, when you're listening to even with Saul, you see stuff and you hear some stuff and it becomes humorous. Parts of it are really, really humorous, and it reads and you listen like a story. So it's not that hard to digest, of course, unless you're overthinking it sometimes, but that's what I do. So like for the past couple of days, once I'm working, I'm listening Bible. So I'll go through like 4 or 5 books per day. And because while I'm working, I just put the phone on and listen. So, and I find that I learn a whole lot. And then sometimes, a lot of the time, the stress just comes off. Because I'm now just doing what I like to do, and I'm just hearing the word. So I'm still living. And that's the point I'm trying to make. Coming to God doesn't mean you stop living. It really doesn't mean that. It means that you do what you do, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Do what you do and walk in his instruction. The desires of your heart is not God's desire now. And I know that sounds kind of paradoxical. The desires of your heart is what you want. And that's what he wants to do. You don't give your child or tell a child to act out your life every day and expect them to be happy. Not that they don't love you. It's just that they have their own wants and needs and feelings. Yah knows that. Not that we don't love him. It's just that we have our own wants and needs and feelings. He said, look, just walk in my ways and I will give you the desires of your heart. Not my heart, your heart. In other words, don't steal. Give the people the phone when you find it. Don't freeze the chicken with ice and sell it for more pound weight. Don't do stuff like that. Yeah, in a laugh. They do stuff like that, trust me. Soak the chicken and freeze it. And then have it heavier. So Yahuwah says, don't do that. Treat people fairly. And I was saying, I don't remember what I was saying too. Most of Torah, if you look at Torah, the greater portion of it is how we live with each other. You know, less of Torah is about what we do to God. More of it is about what we do with each other. Because here's the fact. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor worship them, and all that. So outside of false worship, what else can you really do to God? To be honest, you can't reach up and scratch him in the eyes. You can't, well, you can steal from him. You can't trespass on his place. Everywhere you walk is his. But guess what? Everything else is about what you do with each other. So he's saying to you, go live your life and remember to treat the next person good. That sound easy? While you live your life, just remember to treat the next person good. And in case you're not sure what treating the next person good looks like, here's Torah. That's simple. The confusion in it is religion. I guarantee you the confusion in it is religion. It's different denomination, different religion putting their own twist on it to create their own niche. Then it becomes confusing. But it is simply this. Go live your life and remember to treat each other good and remember who gave you life. That's where he comes in. So you can't be working at Microsoft and walking in with an iPhone or iPad or iMac putting on the people's desk. Remember who paying you. If you have your iPad, keep it at your house. Right? So that's what Yahuwah is saying. He's saying, look, I gave you life, and in the case of Israel specifically, I gave you the rain in the former rain, the rain and the latter rain in their seasons. In other words, I give you food. While you were wandering through the desert, and you don't have any water to drink, I took you to a land that was flowing with milk and honey, when there were desert all around you. And I give you food, I give you the rain, the former rain and the latter rain in their season, so that you'll never be empty. So when you see that, you need to remember that I am Yah, who provides for you. And then you now don't go turn around, as he said to, I think in Jeremiah, that they took the very thing that he gave them and use it to make an idol and worship the idol. That's crazy, right? Someone provides a car for you and say, pay me for this car over 5 years. You take the car, put it in the garage, shines it up, and keep throwing the money in the car. Every month, you just go toss the money in through the window. What do you think gonna happen? After 2 months, you're gonna come back for the car. Because you're not paying the person who gave you the car in the first place. You're not paying the car. So when we take the provisions of God, make it into an idol and worship the provision, that's exactly what we're doing. So I think it's really fair when God said, thou shalt have no other gods in my presence. And then the rest of it is treat your brethren good. Victor, your hand is still up, or it was from the last time?
I think it was still up from the last time. Let me take it down.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
Well, we were kind of talking in the chat a bit as well about like music in regards to like chord progressions, because I know we talked about like how words have an effect, and I was saying that one bar for me when it comes to listening to music is like what's being said. You know, like somebody asked me the other day, like, you know, what kind of music I listen to, and I was like, I try my best to listen to music that God can speak through. You know, and that's not always traditional gospel. A lot of times that's reggae. You know, that can also be like this artist James Blake has a song that the lyrics are literally just "You're too precious," you know, and it's just like he's more of a producer, and it's just that same lyric like reoccurring, right? And for me, I think it's a beautiful song. He's not a gospel artist by any means. It's not even necessarily a spiritual artist. He's just more of like a experimental producer. And still, like for me, I really love that song. I love that song because like when I hear it, it's like reassuring. It's like I could feel, and I have felt like, man, that's God speaking to me. You know, that's God like telling me that like I'm too precious to him, you know. And so in that way, like I feel as though God, depending on the season you're in, like he can speak through different things. And I was also sharing that I feel as though there's a season for everything, you know, or different people are in different seasons. And that's for me what I'm coming to acknowledge. Like I've had times in my life when I listened only to gospel, like just strictly gospel, because that's what I needed at that time, right? I've had times in my life, like you were describing, that I couldn't resonate with any music. I was just listening to the Bible, like the music as a whole, regardless of genre or whatever, it just wasn't the place for it. And then I've had other times where it's like reggae is what's really speaking to me, because reggae speaks more towards like the for me, the human side of walking with Yah, you know, like the day-to-day challenges of walking with Yah, considering our history and our experience and the reality of the world that we're living in right now as our people. And it speaks to my identity and my experience in life, you know. And so there's different places for in the same way that there's like there's when it comes there's worship songs that like I feel like speak to me in a way that reggae music could never, you know, like speak to parts of me. But it doesn't mean that like, oh, I have to choose one of these things, at least for me and where I am. It doesn't mean that I have to just choose one of these things. Like, you know, I just feel like sometimes we're in different places. Like I was watching a video with a girl the other day who was saying that she stopped listening to secular music altogether. you know, and I was like, I respect that because I've been there too. I've been in that season, and maybe at some point in my life I'll be in that season again. But I think I say that because I feel as though what we do oftentimes is rather than seeing that we go through different points in our life where we need different things, we see it as, oh man, like I have to choose this one thing and that's me for the rest of my life. Like I'm only listening to gospel music for the rest of my life, or, you know, and for some people, maybe that is their calling. Like it makes me think of that woman who was, it says that she was in a temple fasting day and night, you know, until when Christ came. And it's like, maybe for whatever purpose that Yah put on her life, that is what that is generally what she felt like was needed for her. Like that was her requirement. Like fasting is what she needed to accomplish her purpose. Other people have different purposes. Other people may be like, if Yah has you as a musician, and not only a musician in the church, but he has you as a musician to be evidence of him perhaps before the nations, then you may be like, you may engage with like neo soul and these things, not things that are compromising, but things that like inspire your purpose and your function for what you need to accomplish. But ultimately, I think what I'm trying to get is that like it comes down to knowing who you are and where you are with Yah. Like I think you told me the other day, Dad, it's like doing the best you can with what Yah has revealed to you. If Yah has revealed that, hey, at this point in your life, I need you to listen like to only this, or I need you to listen to no music, and that's what he's revealed to you for what he needs to accomplish through you at this time in your life. And I think it's completely okay to acknowledge that and go with that. What I don't agree with is then trying to take what Yah is saying to me and condemn the whole world for not doing what Yah is requiring of me. You know, it's like, this is like, and I feel like we be doing that, yo. Like I'll be like, sometimes like I've been fasting a lot, like I was showing my dad, and I can honestly say like, because I feel like I've been led to fast like a lot, and sometimes I'll be misinterpreting, but let's say I've been led to fast a lot. I'll be sometimes looking at people eating all this chicken and everything like, yo, man, y'all not really doing this for real, you know? But like that's for me, that's like, that was really coming from a place of hurt. Like it was really like, man, I'm just low key like upset that you're not doing what I feel like I have to be doing, you know? But nonetheless, it's like I've had to learn like, yo, like it literally, I think y'all showed me the other day, because like I have these neighbors, and it's like every time I was fasting, I'd see them going out to eat, going out to restaurants, doing all this stuff. And sometimes I'd be feeling away, you know? And then the other day I hadn't been fasting, and I'm out here like getting dinner and whatnot. And they had been at the house for a few days. And like my neighbor comes over one day, and we ended up talking, and I found out, oh, they're fasting. And they're doing like a 10-day water and tea only fast. And I'm like, yo, like for me, that showed me like, oh, look, all this time I was thinking these people are eating, drinking, all this stuff, and I gotta be fasting. And they're doing a fast that I don't even like. I'm like, yo, like when you do fast, like you fast for real. You might not fast as often as I thought I was fasting, but when you fast, like it really showed me like, yo, you're really about it. It's not about me measuring you against myself or measuring me against you. It comes down to like the measurement of how well we're doing in this walk is how well we're doing in relation to what Yah is showing us, or what Yah is telling us, or what Yah, and that relates to music, that's with fasting, that's with food, that's with whatever. It's like how well you're doing is measured by what you're doing in relation to what Yah is showing you, or what Yah is asking of you.
That's true.
I agree with that.
As you speak of chord progression, I need to mention something though. There's a form of music, because just as music can move you into heavenly places, music can also move you into dangerous places too.
Agreed.
So I need to say that right out, because persons who reject or stay far from a certain type of music, they are not totally wrong.
Right.
In church as well as in the world. I remember reading this book from Roger Morneau. It's called A Trip into the Supernatural. When I was reading that book, I had to stop reading it. It's a very small book, and I had to stop about 3 times and pray before I could get through the book. Because this guy was an ex-devil worshiper who said he actually spoke to spirits like he speak to us. and who he was telling you the things that he did. And he showed one chapter of it was talking about music and how it is that certain music that is being released went through a ritual before it was released so that the spirit goes with it wherever it goes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So you have to be careful.
Yeah.
There is this also in church now, there's this, some churches have this progression where it's like, it's mostly the revival or Pentecostal churches are like that, where you start to play, and I'm sure Chris may know how to play this, and then it starts to get faster, then faster, then faster, then faster, then faster. And before you know it, the entire church is in an uproar.
Yeah, it's I know exactly what you're talking about. And
It's that
that right there
It's that-
is yeah. So that right there is another thing too that had me, because I still now have to I won't say I have to, but I still play that now. And don't get me wrong, as a musician, it's fun. It's fun as a musician because you enjoy it. But I learned that after I left the church scene for a while, I learned it's mostly an entertainment factor. Because once, so say the church is kind of dead, right? All you have to do as a musician, same thing with backing up a preacher on an organ. It's the entertainment factor of it, because you can have a dead church, but let the preacher start hooping and hollering, you're playing behind the preacher. Now all of a sudden that chord progression invokes emotion. Same with shout music. So, you may have, certain a little people crying and praising the Most High. And as a musician, you hit the same chord progression, or you all of a sudden everybody's losing it because they know it's shouting time. It's also goes back into I hate to say tradition, but it's a tradition thing. Shout music, praise and worship music, even certain praise and worship music, you play it and evokes emotion.
For some people also, it goes a bit further than that, because I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there are people who used to be out cold, not cold, but they're underground. They have to tie their legs for the females and tie them. You've never seen those stuff, so maybe you don't know what that looks like. But
I was about to say, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, trust me. When we call it in Jamaica, get in spirit. You're in the same building, but from knowing Torah, you realize that that's not represented anywhere in Torah.
Oh, you're talking about the Holy Spirit. Oh, I know exactly well, not in that sense, but I know the realm of what you mean. And I will say that from what I hate to say researched on that matter, it's not what people think it is.
Right.
In the sense that actually comes from a different religion. And what people think is the Holy Spirit is a whole different spirit. And there's a documentary on that you can look up. But yeah, I learned that too, because I'll say this, when I was little, I always wondered why people are, oh, you didn't get the spirit, you didn't shout. I'm like, I see it and I know, and some people, and don't get me wrong, I think Nisha just posted, isn't that true worship? For some people, they feel it is. And I won't say it's not, because they feel they are truly worshiping the Most High,
right?
Worshiping God as they, either have been taught or as they feel. But it also comes from what you've seen as a kid as well. So you feel like that's what you need to be doing. And for me, I've never had that experience. I've cried, of course, but I've never had that experience where I'm shouting, speaking in tongues, and all that other stuff.
And rolling on the floor.
Right. And doing all the shaking and stuff like that. And when I learned that, I'm like, so that's what that is. That's why I never really resonated with it, because it didn't feel right. But
and then they are genuine though,
Yes, yeah, the people are genuine in their worship. It's just, when you learn it, it's like now you have to see where it came from. But the people are genuinely, to them, they're worshiping, the way they feel, right? But even worship music. Worship music.
I
We play worship music.
Mm.
You know, and for altar call, everything is pretty much like orchestrated the way it's supposed to be, I guess, or the way it is. So, you know, when we have altar call, you play certain music, or we call talk music, to invoke certain type of emotions, in people. And that's another thing. It invokes emotion. So when you play certain things in the church, you know, certain people have a certain reaction to it. They know, you know, how they should be feeling around that time.
Right. And some of them, and mark you, the people are genuine,
Right.
at least most. But some of them also don't know what took control of them while they were there.
Right.
And they can't tell you exactly what happened between the time that this started and when it ended. They couldn't tell you exactly what was happening.
Mm. And all they know is at the end of it all, at least the end of the service, all they know is I had a good church.
Yeah.
Church was good.
And some of them don't know. After that, up until that point, they are conscious. After that, because I've spoken to people, up until that point, they were conscious. After that, they cannot tell you what happened until the group that would be around them, calming them down until they come back to. I know you've never seen that level, but
Well, I know. Actually, I have a question about that.
I've seen it in the Holiness Church.
And well, I don't know what time it is on you guys' side, so I don't want to ask a question because I don't want us to go in a whole other conversation that we can go over.
I think I know what your brother is.
But no, well, I just wanted to ask about this experience that I had. Because I went to this I went to this church. Well, we were going to this other region in Africa. Because my friend invited me to, like, I guess they usually go up there and they pray with some children, and they have this like ministry with the school. And my friend invited me to go, and I really enjoyed it. As far as like, I shared it in the chat. Like when I walked in, they were worshiping, and it was like, to me, it was one of the most immersive worship experiences I've ever seen. Like being able to like we've been talking about, like to hear drums and to hear musicians, and this is Africa, so they're live, they're dancing, but I could tell that like everybody was just so genuine about like praising Yah, and it really like inspired me because I'm so used to worship being like, holy art thou, you know, like, well, let's just sit here and I'm just like, bro, that's boring, you know, like honestly, it doesn't resonate. But to me, this had so much life, and I don't know, I was really inspired by the worship experience. And then afterwards, the pastor was like, all right, now we're gonna pray. And like my friend came to me and she was like, if you feel led, you can get up and you can go pray over the children. And I was like, I'm not in no position to pray over nobody. Like, you know, I thought we was just gonna be praying. Like, I didn't know it was praying over, you know. But nonetheless, everybody like was standing up and whatnot. And the pastor that was there, he made a call, and he was like, because we're at a school, remember, but we're in like a hall, like a dining hall, and he made a call, and he said, every child who is from a broken home, come to the front. And when I saw like at least 30 kids like came to the front, like it really like it really broke my heart, because to me, it was in that moment, I was like, man, like this is really like when we talk about being like who we are, being a people, like this is also the evidence of that. I was like, man, like it's like a little under half of this room, you know, are coming from broken homes. And so to have seen these same kids be so like jubilant and happy, and then to see how many of them are coming from broken families, like it really like moved my heart. So I was like, I want to go stand with them, you know. So I got up and I went and stood with them, not with the intention of like praying over them, but like praying with them, you know, because like that really like spoke to me. So I'm in this crowd of like kids, right? And the pastor starts praying, and he's praying in Swahili. And again, like he's like, all right, let's close our eyes. And I'm like, all right, we're gonna pray, like, Father God, thank you for this day. Not at all. Like when I tell you, this man started like praying, like walking across, touching their heads. And I'm like, okay, like okay, this is like very interesting. And then what really shifted for me was like, I'm like this, you know, I'm praying, my eyes are closed. Then I hear like doof, and I'm like, somebody just fall. And then like I look, bro, and it's like this girl on the ground like shaking. And I'm like, oh snap, like, oh, this is really like reaching her. Then it starts happening all around me. Like people are like screaming, passing out. And it's like, yo, like what's going on right now? And then I realized, okay, like this is what people be talking about when like of like getting in the spirit and whatnot, because these people were real life, like when I see it on TV, I would be like, oh, those people are faking. But again, to your point, I was like, no, these kids are really like falling out. Like you don't drop like that. Like it wasn't no, let me drop carefully. Like people are dropping like all around me. And then the pastor is like touching their heads and praying over them. Then I started seeing people, the people who were there, like adults, are going to them. And in retrospect, after I learned more, I guess they what they were doing is delivering people from evil spirits that were coming out, like because of the prayer. And the whole time I'm there, I'm honestly like, I don't know what to do. Like I'm in my mind, like they're praying, but in my mind, I'm praying like, yeah, like, what do you want me to do here? Like how, like, where am I supposed to be? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I'm praying to Yah, like, yo, help me, you know, like, cause I just don't know what to do. So I was just there praying. And at one point, like, I even like, I don't know, it was just like so much going through my mind to where like at some point I actually just walked out. I was like, all right, I got to get some air. I got to step out. So I walked out and I just stood there for like maybe 15 minutes until like I heard like it seemed like they were like closing up. And then I went back inside. And afterwards, like I was like talking to like my friend who was there and whatnot, and they were like explaining to me like that was like what they call a deliverance, you know, a deliverance session, you know, which to me, I was trying to wrap my mind around it, because usually I don't really get into all that stuff. Like I don't really, you know, I've seen it on TVs or videos, but I usually don't like believe it. I'm like, because again, like I'm like, I don't know what that is. But then now this was juxtaposed with seeing like people really have a genuine experience of like people are really falling out. It's not like they're carefully getting on the floor, like they're dropping to the point where they might have hurt themselves. Like it's really something that is like overcome them. So it's like trying to wrap my mind around, like I see a genuine expression and an experience, I should say. And I see people going to meet that, but it's like I've never been a part of that. Like I don't understand how to function in that. And so I was just curious in when we talk about like from the other side of like music and people getting in the spirit, I feel like I've seen that more from like prayer and spirits so-called coming out and people delivering spirits. And so I'm just curious, like what your perspective, yeah, what perspective, especially talking about that. I haven't asked my dad about it, but I know Denise said she also grew up in a Pentecostal environment, which is what I found out the church was, or the pastor was a Pentecostal pastor. So I'm just for perspective on what your thoughts are on like this experience, because it was my first time being in an environment like that.
I'd like to hear from Denisha. Sorry, Denisha, hand is up. Sorry, Chris. So let me hear from Denisha, then I come to you, Chris.
Yeah, so I just had a question based on like what we were talking about previously with like getting into the spirit. I think Chris White, you were talking about how in those cases sometimes it's not even like it's a different spirit. And I guess I'm kind of confused by that. Like Siobhan was mentioning in the chat, I did say like I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and in that type of environment, like we believe heavily in like being immersed in the spirit while we're in worship. I'm not sure if it's a thing that I can say is like programmed, because I do think from my experience, a lot of people, they are in genuine worship and they do start speaking in tongues. And that has been the case for myself too. It's not like something that I can say like I evoked in myself, you know, like I can't understand what's happening here. And I think, Chris, you also mentioned that there are cases where some people don't even know what happens in between that time and the end. And again, in my case, that's never been my experience. Like, if I'm in the spirit, if I'm speaking in tongues, I'm very conscious that I'm speaking in tongues. I don't understand what I'm saying, but in my mind, I'm still praising and worshiping God in English, in the language that I know, while I'm speaking in a different language. And I guess just to touch back on the programming comment that was made by Stanley in the chat, I think that was something I was beginning to think about, because like even when I was fasting, I would get discouraged sometimes because it's like when I'm praying, I feel like I'm not praying in the spirit, right? And when I say praying in the spirit, like I'm not praying in tongues, like the same experience that I have in church is not the same experience that I have while I'm praying by myself. And on the last fast that I did, there was a case where I ended up being in worship and praying for like 2 hours on my own. And I was thankful because I was beginning to think that, okay, I'm not able to tap deeper with God unless I'm in this bigger church environment. And that was beginning to become a concern for me. And so I was happy that like when I was at home, I was able like to tap in deeper with God and to be able to like pray in the spirit. And even eventually I began singing in the spirit too. And I'm like, whoa, like I've never seen this before in church, and I've never heard about it before. And I had to go like to the Bible and Google like whether there's any scripture about singing in spirit. And I believe somewhere in Corinthians, Paul speaks about praying in the spirit and singing in the spirit. And it was a beautiful experience because again, like the melody, the lyrics that I'm singing, like I'm singing in tongues. I don't know where this melody is coming from or what the language means. But I was thankful to have that experience because it showed me that I don't have to be in that church environment or programmed by whatever music or whatever else is going on. Like that's something that I can actually tap into for myself. So I just kind of wanted to clear up some of those misconceptions. Like, again, I haven't spoken to many people about like what their personal experience is. It's just something that I've grown up seeing. And again, like from my experience, like I'm fully conscious of what's going on. And like Siobhan, like in your case, when you were talking about like people falling down, like I've seen that stuff on TV too. I never really used to believe in it either, even though I grew up in a Pentecostal church. Like I never used to really see those things for myself. But I did go to like a church convention once and I did see it happen and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is real. I didn't experience that for myself, but yeah, I just wanted, to clear up some of that.
Okay, on a point of clarification, it is the persons who have fallen that I'm saying sometimes they don't know what happened from the time up to that point until after they're calm.
Oh, okay.
Or delivered according to. So it's not the person speaking in tongues I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who fell and roll and other stuff. But yeah, okay, so Sabrina, then Chris. Chris, I'm sorry I put you down again. Sabrina and Chris. But just because Sabrina doesn't speak as much.
No problem.
Okay.
Hey guys. Yeah, so basically what Siobhan just said about his experience, like Rachel, I think, I grew up in like a Pentecostal family, grew up going to like Pentecostal church, and what he just described was pretty much like a regular Sunday. Like that's like, it's very, to me, in that environment, it's just like, yeah, people falling, nothing new, but I don't know, like to me personally, like seeing, I don't know, it's just mixed feelings on that, like catching the Holy Spirit, all that stuff, because you know, like I was there in the church, and it's like, you know, so many people would be like screaming, hollering, falling, speaking in tongues, whatever. And it's like, I don't feel anything. Like I don't know, I feel like those experiences, like, and then constantly seeing that, it just made me so numb, honestly. And like there are like, I know my mom, you know, like my mom is a great person and she be speaking in tongues and stuff. But there are people that like want to fall, or like people that are like, oh, this pastor is coming, you know, I want him to touch me. I want him to, you know, so it's like kind of like that program thing. So it's kind of like, to me, just from what I've seen, and I haven't experienced that either. So it's just like, like, you know, I don't really know. Sometimes like, it's just very, to me, it's just very weird, but it's like normal, but it's just very weird.
It's a real feeling, and you cannot deny, because I've seen it many times.
Yeah.
We tend to react as human beings. If we grow up, I'm coming for you, Chris, in a certain social setting, anything from that will give us that nostalgic feeling, and it will evoke a certain reaction from us. So if we grow in that situation, then, or if we are a part of a group, then that, for instance, simple social media. You notice how the world reacts to social media now, and when something is trending, everyone just gravitates and swings, because we are social beings, and we tend to subconsciously react to be a part of. And as I said, people who are at that altar, a lot of them are genuine. A lot of them don't even know that they fell. But we should have been teaching this Holy Spirit tonight, or recapping the Holy Spirit tonight, but we're going to do that next week. And we're going to understand now, once you understand the Holy Spirit and the Bible, and in that light, then you're going to realize that, wow. For instance, the Bible said, Yahuwah seeketh the true worshiper to worship him, though that worship him in spirit and in truth. And the spirit is the breath or wind coming from a root word, which would give it the connotation, a directed breath, or the wind that takes a direct path, or a directed path. Therefore, there's a whole lot of different manifestations of people saying this is the Holy Spirit, that's the Holy Spirit, that's the Holy Spirit. But when you read the Bible, you realize that the Bible is clear on it. So we're gonna get into it next week, and it doesn't change the genuine feeling that someone may feel at that altar. As I've always said, that at every altar, everywhere, except the straight out devil worship altars, Yahuwah is there blessing those who are genuinely seeking him according to what they know. And let that sink in. So it's not just at your church or your synagogue or your wherever that person is. And he said it throughout the prophets, Jeremiah, Isaiah, all those, that wherever you are, when he would have scattered you and you call on him, he's hearing. You're going to call on him in a language that you have come to know to be the way you need to call on him. Whether or not that is true, that's irrelevant. You're doing what you know. You're reaching out the best way you can. However, that's why we study the Bible, so that we learn and we understand and we grow. So it's not a condemnation to anyone. Chris?
Okay. Completely agree with you. So there's two things I posted two videos in Discord. So to answer the first question, well, I answered this. I answered the second question. The speaking in tongues thing comes from, I can't remember the exact scripture in Acts. When they were, yeah, when they were speaking in, well, from the church interprets it as them speaking in tongues, but they were speaking in a language that those around them or outside the building would understand, and recognize that they were speaking and praising Yah. And so when people say they're speaking in tongues, if nobody is, from my understanding, if nobody's understanding what you're saying or knows what you're saying, then I would say it's not necessarily speaking in tongues, and it could be. But that's the interpretation that the church gets that from, is in Acts 2. And it's actually somewhat of a misinterpretation in a sense. And to go back to the first thing, the question as far as what the spirit is, from my research on it, because I used to question it too, comes from a thing called a Kundalini spirit. And if my memory serves me correctly, it comes from the Hindu religion. Where same thing where the person, which we would call the pastor, would touch those in prayer or meditation, and they would have this kind of a Kundalini awakening where they would have shakes, laughing, falling out. And so that has infiltrated into the church. And so that's what we see happening for the most part, is those being touched or prayed on. Once that's done, that's where you see people falling out in this quote unquote spirit, or they call the Holy Spirit, falling out in some, not necessarily laughter, but falling out, crying, shaking, and even some speaking in tongues as well. If you look it up, that's where that comes from. And so you have to kind of, and it does not take away from those who, I hate to say that, experience it. They truly believe they are worshiping God genuinely, and they are genuine. They're genuine in their worship. It's just that the way in, right, the mode in which it's being used is not of, the actual Holy Spirit or Spirit of Yah. It comes from a different spirit or religion.
I think, to be fair, Chris, I think what we need to do next week when we're doing the recap on this Father, the Son, and the Spirit, we should go into Acts 2, because there's a specific mission and prophecies concerning Acts 2, which would clear up this, because they were to be given power to go out to reach the rest of Hebrews. And we saw that when the Spirit came down in the form of flames, tongues of fire, or the token of tongues of fire, they were speaking. They weren't intending to speak in any tongues, but they were at that time Jews, devout men, quoting the Bible now, from all nations under the heavens, gathered at Jerusalem, because this was a feast day. Shavuot, we call it Pentecost. It was Shavuot. So it was a feast day. So for the people who tell it that Christ abolished feast days on the cross, this was after Christ. But that's a whole nother story. This was a feast day. And what Yahuwah did was empower them. So they came out and started to talk. But while they spoke, everyone that were born in these different islands, they were bloodline Hebrews, but they spoke different languages. They were hearing them. They weren't trying to speak in their language. They were just speaking in their Galilean. And what these persons were hearing was their own language, because Yahuwah was now reversing what had happened at the Tower of Babel for the second time. The first time he did that was when everyone was gathered at the foot of Sinai, and he was going to speak the commandments. And there were all this mixed multitude from Egypt and everywhere. And he spoke and everyone heard. So now guess what? He's going to rekindle, and I will put my laws in your heart. Remember, that was one of the promises that was supposed to take place. A new covenant will I make with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. This was the institution of that new covenant. And we're seeing again now where the voice comes again and everyone hears. As against Babylon, which was a confusion of the languages. And now we're seeing that they're not speaking many different, in fact, they're speaking Galilean.
Everyone is
How
understanding.
hear we?
Yeah, they understand what they're saying. It's not
in our own tongue. So
right.
that's a part that we're, but to be fair to Danisha and I think it was Sabrina, it's not to belittle the genuine worship form, because there are many times I think that when I was in the Adventist church, I said, you know what, if we had the fire that the Pentecostals had, we have this whole lot of information and nothing behind it. No fire, no zeal, no nothing. But if we could have had that, so I'm not denouncing the zeal of worship. I'm just saying, just as I said before, music can take you into heavenly places as well as it can take you south. So as it is, the Spirit of Yah empowers. And as I say, our breath, the Spirit means wind. Our breath, when we speak, it vibrates the molecules in the air, and the vibration travels on that, and that is why sound travels. So it vibrates firstly your vocal cords, and then the vibration of your vocal cords start to vibrate the molecules and everything in the air, and that vibration travels on those molecules in the air and travels as sound. Anything further than that, my child might hear my voice and get excited, but my breath can't do anything much more than that. Yahuwah's breath call things into existence. So when it says, let there be, then it was. So it's not that the Spirit, when the Bible says that you're in the Spirit, it means you're directed by the Spirit. And then there's an abundance of scripture that tells you when the Spirit directs you, what is the result of that. You understand what I'm saying? And there's a hint. The time will come, and now it is. The true worshiper must worship in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. Spirit and in truth. Directed breath and what? Truth. Is what comes with the Spirit? What came with the Spirit at Pentecost? What were they speaking? Truth, right? You see where that is?
Mm-hmm.
So the Spirit empowers you to do things that you otherwise could not do, but that always lead to a proclamation of his truth. The question is now, if you ask yourself, in these many times, well, none of us here had that experience, you fell out and you were kicking and doing stuff, and until they calm you, whether they tie you or sit on you or whatever they do, when you're calm and you come back to your senses, what truth did you learn?
That's a good point.
What new revelation do you have to meditate on that will correct the human nature errors? You see what I'm saying? What does it lead you to?
If you had that, when and if you had that experience, you know, like you said, falling out, speaking in tongues and such, and you come to what truth was presented to you, or
right,
what truth were you aware of after the fact? And
right.
if you weren't presented any truth after the fact, then we have to, I guess, question that.
And it doesn't mean Yah doesn't speak to them.
Right.
Yah speak to any one of his children he want at any time. That's a reality. Anyone. So it's not to belittle or to trivialize their experience with Yah. As we say, anyone doing that is using what Yah has given them to the best of their ability at that time. That's what they understand. Some of us, that's no better. Put it this way. The other day when the cult thing happened and the people died in Jamaica, I asked a question. I said, okay, they died now in the cult. And if you follow an institution and Hamashiach should come back and you're condemned, which one of those are better? None. None is better. One follow one to his death sooner and one follow the next one to the death later. Both follows the other, each of them to their death. The point I'm trying to make is this, that none of us have any right to condemn, but we have a right and an obligation to speak the truth. But when we speak the truth, it must always be with respect to persons.
Right.
In respect of persons. So when I say this, I'm not condemning persons. I'm just saying the system that you've understood, you reacted to it, yes. And it felt good. It feels like that's a true reaction. The persons who sacrifice people, they genuinely think that's the right reaction to get what they want. But is it? It's not. So, point is, when that spirit comes over you, it must lead you to a clearer understanding or a conviction of a truth of Yah. And if you look at there's never a time in the Bible when Ezekiel said he felt like, it was Ezekiel or it was Jeremiah, like fire wrapped up in his bones. Do you remember what happened after that? He was given a message to carry of how Israel should walk in Torah. You get what I'm saying?
Did you say the spirit of Yah should lead you to a clearer understanding or a conviction of Yah? I just want to know, just so I can write it down.
Yes.
The spirit of Yah should lead you to a clearer understanding or a conviction of Yah.
Of Yah's truth. It must always lead to Yah. So I can't be here every single time and at the end of my spiritual experience, then I have no closer knowledge of who he is. I'm emotionally closer. You can't deny that. I am emotionally closer. But how do I walk in him? How do I react to life situations? Do I just plead the blood until, or do I have a knowledge of the situation I'm in and could explain to the person on the other end rather than blooding him? Because I've seen that too. The blood is being pled on you so much that you think you're cut to pieces, but you have no knowledge of where you just went wrong. Because they themselves don't know where you went wrong. They know it's wrong, but they can't explain why it's wrong. Not excusing that you just did something wrong, and they're gonna just blood you. And that's another term used. But in the same time, it becomes almost aggression, because you're not now teaching this person what should be done. As it's like your child did something, you just give him some slap and you don't tell him what went wrong. So guess what? He just gets some slap and he still don't know what he did wrong or why it was wrong. So even in that spiritual experience, having a knowledge, and that's what Yah promotes mostly, trust me. Well, trust the Bible. It's a knowledge of Yah. And it does not deny an emotional response to Yah. It doesn't deny that. But our emotions are fickle. We respond to things. We respond to social underpinnings. And then what it does, it gives us a feeling. And then we have a testimony behind that. And then guess what? It's a feeling that is evoked by something that you've experienced prior. However, let me break it to us. Atheists have testimonies too. Atheists have feelings too. Murderers have testimony too. Devil worshippers have testimonies too. There's only one thing that makes a difference. In all of these testimonies and feelings, it must lead you back to walking in the instruction. And dancing in and of itself is not bad. Emotionally charged in relating to Yah is not bad. I'm not saying that for a minute. I can't speak about speaking in tongues because obviously it's a whole different thing than what the Bible teaches. But and where that comes from, I cannot here say it's not bad. However, it doesn't condemn you in that when you do it, you might not have known or still not know where it comes from. And as I said before, a lot of the people who are doing are genuine. And some of them are powerful people of God. They are just responding in a way that they understand too. Because you have some really powerful women of God who speak in tongues, but trust me, they are powerful women and men of God. They are just expressing in the way that they understand. Would I do it? No. Do I condemn them? No. Do I agree with it? No. I just have to respect you in the space that you are when you are there until you understand differently based on the Bible. Just as I have a lot of things that I need to work on until I understand differently. So I think that we would have ended well, obviously I'm trying to make certain that we end on a note that no one feels as if we're condemning. Because I know for us, the religion we grow in, denomination, holds a firm part in our hearts. Even if we're not there now, but it's a part of what makes up our emotional response and outlook. So we tread lightly with how we deal with the things. Even if they are wrong, we have to realize that we can't just start to scalp up the patient just to get to the kidney, because the patient will need to live after that, right? So we just be tactful and be respectful when we deal with issues like this. How do we break it to person that what you've known all your life is actually wrong? I've been in that moment too when I said, wow, Clive, I see your hand.
Yeah, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, bro.
Good evening to all of your listeners and family members joining here. I just want to add to the point that you're making. Just earlier this week, I've been thinking that just the same way that we sit and we visualize ourselves and the things that we aspire for ourselves and the thing that motivates us, the fact, the equality in all of us puts us in the very same, every individual in the very same position. So what right does it give us to really judge somebody else when we are working out our lives based on our own desires and experiences, which makes us equal to the next person, and that person is doing the very same thing and going about it in the way that they see and they feel and they're inspired. And it's akin to what you were just explaining. And so it almost brings me to a place of so much more appreciation for the next person. So I kind of get that from what you were just explaining.
Yeah.
That you're about at the same place.
Right. And we grow differently and we understand different things at different times. But guess what? We are all trying to grow. And we just speak the truth in love. I know I used to be one of those persons who just pound it.
Yeah, I was too. I have to admit.
When you understand Torah, you understand that, look, even if you're speaking the truth and speaking out of love, it still displeases you. Because everything has to be about love. Everything that he gave us was about the people. So it's not about Torah. Even though it's Torah, it's not about, when he gave us Torah, it was not about, saying, see, I gave you a really good document and I really like this document. And it's just about it. No, it's about actually our development. It's actually about us. That is why when Christ said, did you not hear that David ate the shewbread and was blameless in the temple? Because guess what? David was starving. And Yah would have preferred for him to eat the sacred bread in the temple than die. That's
I get that. I get that.
Yeah. So the law is about our well-being and health. That's why the Bible said the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. It was made to uplift us, not to use as a stick to beat us. Everything about Yahuwah's law was made to uplift, nourish, and sustain us. So when we are going to impart that, it should not be used as a weapon to kill the next man. It must always be used in a way to uplift the next person. Of course, there are times when and only Yah can tell us when that time comes. Because Yahweh says, look, to Israel, I'm going to punish you because you're killing the people that should live and keeping the people that should die alive. You're not doing the right thing. So there are times when we have to be very firm because there are people who is not understand, they don't understand. They understand, they're just rejecting. So those people don't play that game with. Those are the people, Shaul says, brush the dirt, dust off your foot and leave the city. You don't sit around playing with those people because they're going to draw you right down. But when they genuinely don't understand, then you explain. All right, I think we've exhausted our time here. Thank you all for coming. And next week, we will get to the Father, Son, and the Spirit. And we're going to look at,
When my light just came back on, I was saying I think this was a good prerequisite because now it's like I'm curious to. It's like it's set a context to look at the Spirit, to understand what it is, because we've heard like different like understandings of what it may be, what it isn't, like different experiences, and so now I think that's kind of set the stage for now. Let's go into Scripture and see what it's defined as, right? Like not what is defined as, but what it's been, like what it's been consistently, and what it is scripturally,
and how it affects man, how men reacted.
Yeah,
because Christ said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to do what? Preach, teach, deliver, set free them that are captive. So you realize all of those speak to the law. But we're going to touch it next week and realize what the Bible actually said the effect of the Spirit is, as against what we think it is. So, shalom, everyone. Shalom. And thank you very much, Rachel and Sabrina, for enlightening us and to add that human factor to us just discussing it, because we were discussing it based on what we've seen. Because I've been into Pentecostal church. I have a whole lot of friends who are Pentecostal, but I've never been a Pentecostal. So thank you for that insight, and know that we don't condemn you. We cannot condemn you, actually. Don't have that power. So shalom, everyone. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everybody.
Bless up. Bless up.
Someone to bless up.
And Denisha, bless up.
Shalom.